What if I told you the Baltimore Orioles were one move away from being serious World Series contenders? The Baltimore Orioles have had an absolutely electric first half of the season as they head into the All-Star break with the third best record in the league. But what's scary about the Orioles is they're still getting better. It's no secret that the Baltimore Orioles have the best farm system in the league, and honestly, it's not even close. It seems as if every month the Orioles are calling up another top prospect to come help the team in their pursuit of the playoffs. And there are still more to come. With the likes of Grayson Rodriguez and Heston Kjerstad on the brink of coming to Baltimore, honestly, the Orioles could stand pat at the deadline and still make a push, but that would be stupid. The Baltimore Orioles are in perfect position to go out and get a big-time difference maker at the deadline, and they have the prospects to outbid anyone for anybody they want. If the Orioles are serious about wanting to compete for a World Series this year, they are going to have to make a move at the deadline. So here are my top 6 trade options for the Baltimore Orioles to solidify themselves as true World Series contenders. Now, I've broken this list down into 2 categories. You have the short-term guys and the long-term guys. The long-term guys are guys that are going to be here for more than just this year. They have more years on their contract, but they're going to cost more. The short-term guys are guys on expiring deals who I think would be a little bit cheaper. So let's start with the short-term guys, or the rentals. When you talk about 1-year rentals that can push the Orioles to that next level, one guy comes to mind immediately: Blake Snell. In his last 9 games, Blake Snell is 5-1 with a .68 ERA. So even though he would be a rental, he's still going to cost you. And I decided in this deal, we're going to spice it up a little bit. A little 2 birds, 1 stone kind of action. Not only are we going after Blake Snell, but we're also adding in closer Josh Hader. Hader, like Snell, is on an expiring deal. So if the Padres want to get the most bang for their buck in a deal, they'd be stupid not to go to the richest farm system in the league. Hader has a 1.08 ERA and 21 saves in 35 appearances this year. So like Snell, even though he's a rental, it's gonna cost you. So for the first mock trade, I have Blake Snell and Josh Hader going to the Baltimore Orioles for Connor Norby, Joey Ortiz, DL Hall, and Drew Rom. In this deal, the Orioles get a frontline starter in Snell, an incredible piece to add into the bullpen in Hader, and the Padres make out very well. The Padres get 2 top 100 prospects in Connor Norby and Joey Ortiz, a former top 100 prospect in DL Hall, and they get Drew Rom, who is a major league ready pitcher in the minors right now. Now, obviously, this is one of the more expensive trades the Orioles would make, but I think it would be a win-win for both sides. Next, we're taking our negotiations to Detroit and looking at Eduardo Rodriguez. In 2014, the Baltimore Orioles traded Eduardo Rodriguez to the Boston Red Sox for a dominant reliever in Andrew Miller. Rodriguez has a player option at the end of the year that, the way he's pitching, he's most likely going to opt out of for another contract. So keeping in mind that this is most likely a rental, here's the trade. The Baltimore Orioles acquire Eduardo Rodriguez while the Detroit Tigers get Connor Norby and Dylan Beavers. The Orioles once again get a frontline starter who's having a great year, while the Tigers get a very good top prospect in Connor Norby, along with last year's second-round pick, Dylan Beavers. Now, we're going to stay in the AL Central for our next team, the Chicago White Sox. And first, we're going to look at Lucas Giolito. Lucas Giolito currently has a 6-5 record with a 3.45 ERA and 117 strikeouts in 19 appearances this year. Giolito is on an expiring deal, so honestly, it shouldn't take too much to get him away from the White Sox. In this trade, the Baltimore Orioles acquire Lucas Giolito for Joey Ortiz and Jud Fabian. Once again, the Orioles will get a good rotation piece to help them fight in the playoffs, while the White Sox get 2 very talented young players in Joey Ortiz and Jud Fabian. Now, it's sad because I am a massive Jud Fabian fan, and I think he is going to be really good. But with the pick of Enrique Bradfield Jr., center field became more expendable in the minors. So the White Sox land a very good player in Jud Fabian to go along with a top 100 prospect in Joey Ortiz. So now let's move on to the long-term guys, the guys who aren't rentals. And to start, we're staying in Chicago. But this time, we're looking at Dylan Cease. While Dylan Cease isn't the dominant Cy Young runner-up that we saw last year, he's still 3-3 with a 4.30 ERA and 123 strikeouts in 19 appearances for a pretty bad White Sox team. So while Dylan Cease isn't having his best year, he has 2 years left on his contract, which means you're gonna have to give something good up to get him. So in this trade, the Orioles acquire Dylan Cease for Joey Ortiz, Dylan Beavers, Drew Rom, and Cesar Prieto. Now, listen, Prieto just hits, and it is hard to put some of these prospects in these packages, but you have to give up good players to get good players. Now we're moving on to our second long-term guy, but once again, we're staying in the lowly AL Central, and we're looking at Shane Bieber. Now, sort of like Cease, Bieber isn't dominating like we've been used to seeing him at times. Bieber currently has a 5-6 record with a 3.77 ERA and 95 strikeouts in 19 appearances. Now, unlike Cease, Bieber is only available for 1 more year after this on his contract, so while it's going to take a lot, you might not have to give up as much. So in this trade, the Baltimore Orioles get Shane Bieber for Connor Norby, DL Hall, Hudson Haskins, and Cesar Prieto. The Guardians get to use their pitching magic on DL Hall, and honestly, he'd probably become a Cy Young contender with them. And now our last and final mock trade scenario, I'm talking Corbin Burnes. Burnes is under contract for another year, and the Brewers are in the hunt, so it might take a lot to get Burnes, but supposedly the relationship isn't all sunshine and rainbows, so let's see what we can work with. Corbin Burnes is currently 7-5 with a 3.94 ERA and 102 strikeouts in 18 appearances. When he's been on this year, he's been on. So in this trade, the Baltimore Orioles acquire Corbin Burnes for Connor Norby, DL Hall, Dylan Beavers, and Drew Rom. Another very big prospect haul for the Brewers, as they would be able to get something for Burnes with him supposedly going to walk next offseason. At the end of the day, the Orioles have a massive window and a massive opportunity to win in the now and later. Make sure to comment below how horrible these trades are, what you would do differently, and how I don't know ball. See you next time.